Good morning. My name's Nick Drouet. I'm an executive IT architect in IBM. I spend my life in and around helping customers deliver transformation of all kinds in all kinds of different organizations. So, let me see, is that working? A little bit of an opener there in terms of transformation from IBM. You've seen some of our logos there, and there should be a little bit of a video here, I think. If we do this. How do I get the video to work? Here we go. Oh. Help? Ah. So a little bit of fun there, a good video, a really great video actually, but showing kind of how IBM is transforming itself and sort of the breadth of transformation now. I've been at IBM 20 years, and while I don't remember any of the tabulating machines, I did see some typewriters when I first arrived, and I had a whole bunch of ThinkPads before they finally gave me a Mac. So quite a lot's changed. Now, I can talk on this topic for probably a good few hours, but I've been told I did have 35 minutes, so I've got a little bit less. So I need to focus in on a few areas with my colleague Serda. But first of all, we're going to set the scene with a bold vision from one of our clients. And then I'm going to talk about some observations and challenges that I see on a day in, day out basis dealing with some of our clients. Serda is going to talk briefly about GDPR and security and some of the challenges we have. And then I want to walk you through a model that we use with some of our clients to understand where are they on their journey to grabbing that digital advantage. And then we're going to look at some examples, a few case studies, and a few different areas that are quite cool. So first is around helping transform the contact center experience. Secondly, how Wimbledon is using analysis of social media to drive viewers to their site. And then thirdly, for how to do a step change in developer productivity. I know there's been just a talk on DevOps, so in a similar vein there. And then finally, to wrap up, talking about a constant challenge in any kind of transformation is what do I do about the legacy? How are our customers starting to eat that elephant? So, a bold vision. So, this is a real customer. So, financial services customer. Typical problem, so expenses are too high, applications are out of date, and the infrastructure is woefully out of date as well. So they need to transform themselves. And in order to get an operational expenditure saving of around about £100 million a year, they've picked 5 main pillars of transformation. Firstly, to transform the infrastructure. So moving away from the technical drift to having standardized patterns and automation wherever possible. So number one. Secondly, building a hybrid cloud. So regulator-approved hybrid clouds will allow them to put the right workload in the right place at the right cost. Thirdly, and probably the biggest payback, is around the application innovation or application modernization. So figuring out what to do with all of those old applications. Okay, what do we do with all of the dross, all the cruft that's been there running that high street bank for many years? Fourthly, what do we do about all the new applications? And the bankers said, right, okay, any new applications, they're going to be born on the cloud. We're going to create an internal startup. We're going to force you to come in and test out your applications inside the business and get to value as soon as possible. And fourthly is around data. So how do I make the most of the data? So deploy analytics to understand as much as I can about their customers, about their products, how they relate to each other, and try and develop that. So that sounds fantastic, right? So why are our customers doing it? And really, it's the top point up there, disruptors. So we are seeing disruption in all of our industries. I spend most of my time in financial services, so that's the fintechs, right? So companies coming along and building new products and offering them to customers without any of the cost of running a high street bank behind them. So, and in retail, we've all seen what Amazon has done, and in travel, well, my example, I'm going to Berlin on holiday in a couple of weeks' time. I didn't even bother looking at a hotel. I've bought an amazing apartment on Airbnb for half the price. I could get it somewhere else. Customers want apps, right? So if you haven't got an app on your phone, they're going to go somewhere else. So that's what's driving it. And then customers I talk to customers every other week now who are looking to get out of hosting their own IT, right? So I want to refocus back on business. I want to get people out of the trenches. I want them driving the business forward, either through voluntary or potentially in finance. A good example, through PSD2, organizations are being forced to open up their businesses using APIs, so connecting applications internally and externally. We talked about scale this morning, about IoT being able, and Linux and open source. So open source has just become massive. Customers are no longer scared of it. 10 years ago when I was doing open source in IBM, I got panned for doing it. I wasn't allowed to do it. And now we're embracing that. And if you want to compete with those startups, those disruptors, then you need to simplify your IT. You need to pay down that technical debt, right? Throw the Windows NT servers in the bin. Who's still, put hands up if you've still got any NT servers in your organization. There's probably a few. We had a customer who just got finally turned off with their OS2, and then finally starting to shift to paying for that IT as you use it. Well, that's fantastic, right? So let's just get on with it. It sounds perfect. So what are some of the challenges? And these are some of the ones that I see on a day in, day out basis. Would you believe in 2017 people still don't have a common definition of what cloud is? I've been in meetings where there'll be 10 people. What do you mean by cloud? And I'll get 10 different answers. So that's one challenge. And the next one is around, well, where do I start, right? So which application, which platform, what site, what part of the business should I start with? If you need to go on that journey to get that digital advantage, where should I start? Then you've got the challenges around, well, even if I know where to start, well, how should I consume it? So I'm having these conversations with customers at the moment. So should I simply be moving my virtual machines from where they are today into an IaaS provider, just lift and shift it and do it quickly? Or should I start to re-platform my applications onto some kind of a platform as a service solution? And should I perhaps start to consume some services from that cloud provider? If I start to consume those native cloud services, what's that going to do to my portability? So another question. So quite a few questions here, but these are some of the challenges. And you're only interested in portability if you recognize that there are actually multiple cloud providers out there. So the market's consolidating, but there are multiple cloud providers, all offering different services at a different price point. So things you need to consider about where you're only starting this journey. And then you're thinking about, if I'm going to consume those multiple cloud providers, am I getting good value? So this is a question that's starting to come up now. Customers they've gone down one path and now they're saying, actually, am I getting good value from my cloud provider? Where's the right place to run my workload? So cloud brokerage is starting to become a topic for us. And that allows people to really get the science behind, where should I put my workload? What's the right price? And then the constant challenge is, well, I'm under pressure to transform the delivery. You're the CIOs, you're being told from on high to start making this happen, but I still need to keep the lights on. And that's even more of a challenge if you've got people who are struggling with all kinds of reasons for, we had our IT failure last week, quite a big one, right? So how do you do cloud transformation when your data center's just gone offline? Another one down here, security tell me I can't do it. I had a conversation with our colleague from Aston Martin earlier. So if we see too often people bring in security too late to the day. Cultural problems, and then a very prescient one really, which is about the topic of GDPR. Over to my colleague Seda.
Thanks, Nick. Okay. So I'm Saïd. I lead our security and privacy team in Europe. This is the shortest time I was given to cover GDPR, so I'm sure I'm not going to do justice, but I will try. GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation, or Global Data Protection Regulation, or Gigantic Data Protection Regulation, whichever one you choose. It is one of the biggest initiatives that's going to impact the way that you operate your business. And I say this because everyone touches data nowadays, and everyone touches consumer data. A couple of headlines on what's changing. On a positive note, it is supposed to unify all regulation in Europe. So you're not doing things differently in Germany, you're not doing things differently in the UK, you're doing things in a unified manner. But it's of course increasing the bar. Secondly, it's global. So if you have a subsidiary in, let's say, Mexico is accessing European data, they are under the GDPR legislation. It's already active. It's already a law. It's just coming into effect next year. Personal data, what you define as personal data, has been massively increased in terms of definition. So things like IP addresses, things like location. If you can identify a personal individual based on that information, it comes under GDPR. Organizational impact, I'll talk a little bit about that. Cost of non-compliance, this has been in the press a lot. So 4% of your turnover, annual turnover, is a massive increase from what we're seeing in terms of fines from ICO. Next slide, please. So we have been talking to many organizations for the last 2 years, and the majority of our clients are still in the basically denial phase. So the tortoise is basically, where do we begin? What do we do? Can you come and tell us what solutions you have? Can I do it? Do I have a silver bullet to fix GDPR? The minority ones are the hares, which are actually, we know what we're doing. We are in the lead on this. Just come us and talk about specific solution like data masking. How do I, mask my data, going from production to dev and test environments, for example. There's a third animal here, which I haven't displayed. Can you actually guess which one is that?
Ostrich.
That's the ostrich. Actually, that is the majority. So wait and see, until the others, start implementing it and copy it across. The problem with that is when actually the legislation is completely active, in effect, May 25th next year, they might be the ones that actually the regulators go after the first. So we never know how the regulators will act in day one of GDPR legislation. Next one, please. So what do we do as IBM? So we do 2 things. If you don't know where to start, we come and say, let's do a readiness assessment. Let's identify your biggest gaps. Let's close them before the legislation comes into effect next year, so that you can demonstrate to the regulator that you've taken a good step forward, and you've basically you have a plan to close the gap. But GDPR often is misunderstood. It's not a security legislation. If you look at this framework that we came up with, security is only one of the 5 dimensions that we have. When you talk to your teams, so GDPR is really first a business problem. It's all about how do you deal with your consumers, how do you operate your business around consumer data. First, a business problem. Second, it's a massive data problem, data governance, right? Store data, how do you give users access to data, and so on and so forth. And thirdly, it's a security problem. How do you secure data once you've say is the last thing is if you haven't done anything, just start with discovering your sensitive data, identifying your critical assets. That's the number one starting position for anything. Because if you can't locate what you're going to protect, you can have the Rolls Royce of this or the Aston Martin of this world, but it's not going to be, in terms of protection of data, that's not going to be sufficient. So identify your critical assets. That's the first thing you need to do.
Perfect, thank you. So in some other areas then, how would you know where you are, right? So if you wanted to grab that digital advantage and get some kind of a transformation in your environment, I'll stand back here so I can point up here. As with any journey, right, the most important thing is to understand, well, where are you today and where do you want to get to? So this is a model we've developed, and we do this with our clients here. So we're looking at a number of key dimensions. So firstly is the agile edge, so that DevOps stuff, the innovation engine. The industrialized core, so where all those core systems run. If you were British Airways, that would be a challenging one right now. Your DevOps environment, the partnership between IT and business, your integration through data or APIs, security, how effective are you security, and then how are you enabling your customers and your staff to get access using mobility and networking. So some key dimensions there might be some others, but these are the ones we talk to our clients about. And then we look at them in terms of where are you in terms of are you initial, managed, defined, quantitatively managed and optimizing. But I'll walk through an example for one of you here. So say integrated through data around APIs. So we work with customers to understand, where are you today? So at the beginning, that might be that actually you don't have any APIs. You might be doing batch processing. So you might be integrating just at a file level. Over here, you might be actually creating some APIs, okay? But they're undocumented or they're private APIs. Over here, you're defining them. You've got a catalog of APIs, making some progress. Now over here, quantitatively managing. So now we're actually figuring out what's the right way of, am I making some money out of this? So I might be actually selling some APIs, either internally or out into the market. And on the right-hand side, you'll be optimizing it. So now I might have a full API lifecycle management. I might have service levels around them, and I'm really making money out of them. Okay. So, and we can do the same for, say, at the agile edge or industrial core. So we can work through all those. So the idea being, we do work with our clients to really understand, where are you today? So if we were to get you in a room and without anyone else there, right, where would you put yourself on here, right? Maybe a question for people in the room, an experiment over a cup of coffee would be, where do you think you are on here? So a very useful, it's amazing what you can get done on a single slide, but a very valuable way of understanding where you are on that journey. Other things we need to consider then, so what are we talking about? What am I seeing in my other customers? Console one at the top really, about balancing that drive, right? Everyone wants to be either, you want to get first mover advantage or a fast follower, okay? So how do I want to do that? But the challenge is that we've actually got an evolving landscape. So in the technical space, in security and networking, things like, containers, container networking. How do I deploy that? How do I manage it? How do I secure it? And how do my policies relate to that? So there's probably a bit of a translation there. I'm working with a client at the moment, literally on that, where today they have firewall rules. They're building a new cloud that works in a completely different way. And you need to get people in a room and explain, we just need to translate this stuff. And as Serda says, the hardest job about transformation is actually understanding what you've got today. So understanding the legacy is a massive, massive, massive problem. I've spent too many years of my life doing discovery, but it's a problem that's not going away. We talked about the need to protect data, so GDPR, etc. The other one then is also about understanding what's an acceptable level of risk in the environment. So how much risk are you prepared to take? And change, any kind of transformation drives risk. And in the transformation programs I get involved with, the number one question is, okay, what have we got on the change calendar coming up, and how much, how fast can we go? Because I can probably make the IBM engine go faster than you can keep up. So that's always a challenge for those customers. So what's your level of risk? And then the other one is around skills and experience. So do you have the skills and experience to both deliver this new world? So grabbing a digital environment, digital transformation? Do you know what skills you need? And then what about skills to manage it? So we talk about, container networking is a good example, right? How do I manage that? Okay. Do I have the skills involved? Do I know how to do automation at an infrastructure and application level? All kinds of changes. So those are some of the challenges and some models. And then let's talk about where we're doing this for real, right? So you guys want to hear what we're doing for real. So transforming a banking contact center. Everyone knows, typical journey going into a bank or dealing with a bank. So I'm a punter over here. I want to deal with a contact center person over here. The challenge is these people are highly paid compared to robots. Highly paid, and they run off scripts. So for a bank that's looking to transform this, actually what we're doing now is to try and step back and put in a cognitive chatbot, where the first point of call, we can divert customers into a chatbot. You can understand natural language. You can speak to them pretty much any language, and it will convert that. But not only that, you can then bolt onto it tone analysis. So I can have a human on the website chatting away. That human starts getting a bit annoyed with the whole thing. Well, what do you want? Do you want to carry them talking to a chatbot, or actually do you want to pass them seamlessly over to a contact center agent? And that's what we're doing with a customer now. So this is really transforming the way. So from a cost perspective, the front door can be via a chatbot, and when things get a bit rough, or if they go off script, we can then talk over there to a contact center agent. Great solution for this particular customer. Any tennis fans in the room? We're into June, aren't we? Coming up for tennis, right? This is a really cool example, actually. So, and this was from last year. So there was a bit of a scheduling challenge for the folks who run the Wimbledon Championships about this time last year. So at the same time that the Wimbledon Championships were on, they had to contend with, I'm trying to remember the numbers now, so it was 2 Grand Prix, 3 international tennis matches, 9 stages of the Tour de France, and the Euro 26 finals. And on the day of the men's final, they had to contend with the British Grand Prix and the Euro 26 finals. Okay. So under normal circumstances, the guys who run the Wimbledon website would expect about 20% dip in visitor numbers. So they didn't want to do that, so they came to IBM and we worked with them to put together a social media analysis platform. And what we did, we put in all of the text from all of the major social media platforms. So that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc. And by doing that, we're understanding in real time what's going on with the fans who are watching Wimbledon. What's hot, and how do we drive them to the social media platform? So by doing this, we're doing real time amending and driving and updating the social media feeds to drive content and drive viewers to the Wimbledon site. And the net outcome from that was that 20% expected dip went to a 24% increase in traffic to the Wimbledon site during the championships. Not quite as sexy, this one, not as a Wimbledon one, but this is an ongoing piece of work with a major client. Talk about this. So the industrial core over here, the stuff where operations is king. And over here, the developers for this bank, they want to continue to update the mobile applications and update the website. And they need to be able to talk to systems in the core. So they can spin stuff up on their PC, but it really only goes so far. So they say, can go back to the service delivery team, can we have some new computers new development environments? Computer says no, come back in 9 months' time, literally 9 months to get a server on the floor. So that's unacceptable. So we've worked with the customer to build off-premise. We've taken off-premise, not just the core system, not just platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. We've actually taken the bank's own infrastructure and security systems with them. So we now build that off-premise. So it's realistic. It's realistic and compliant. So we can build things up here. We can onboard external agencies. We can get people working on this. We can onboard third parties in days. We can spin up new environments for developers in hours. New products get developed over here, and over time, they move back over here. So the agile edge gets moved back into industrial core. And they have north of 500 developers working on that on a daily basis. So really great story. And then finally, what do we do about the legacy? So I guess everyone in the room has got a legacy challenge, but this is one we deal with all the time. So takeaway for this is that not all the legacy should be treated in the same way. There's no point in treating the sandwich ordering system in the same way as the core banking platform. But you do need to have some way of categorizing these systems. And we spend a lot of time with this at the moment. So a key one for us is to understand, well, what do you have today? What are some of the patterns you might take to do it? So based on the business value, based on the IT value of those systems, what should I do with them? And then where should they go? So should I be rehosting them, refactoring them, so doing some software updating, replatforming them, re-architecting them, replacing them, retiring them, and where should I be going to in terms of in an IaaS provider, on-site or off-premise, maybe to a platform as a service or a fully managed platform, or maybe even getting rid of it, offloading it, and going to a software as a service. And what we're seeing, that drives standardization, building platforms, and the interesting one we're seeing now is simplifying and changing in flight. So I've spent for over 10 years doing migrations with our customers. Changing stuff and moving stuff at the same time tends to be quite fraught. And we are now seeing customers moving to the point where they actually want to do this. So taking big leaps. So we're no longer going to move it. That technical debt is too high, and we need to pay it down. And so to wrap up, give a few minutes for questions. Just summary then. So things that we see in the environment. So think about the outcomes. So what do your customers need? Not just thinking about the products, but apply some in IBM. We call it design thinking. So putting the customers at the center of it. What's the vision that you're going to sell? Because you need to sell that both to the business teams and to the technical teams if you're going to change the environment. Because guess what? Culture's going to eat you for breakfast, right? So if you don't bring people along on the journey, they're never going to engage on it. Key one, think about what you're going to do and not going to do. A good example of this was a customer that spent a year putting in an automation solution, churning out servers. We got from a point of turning servers on the floor in 3 months to 3 hours, and then a guy comes along with a checklist and ticks off something that's been built automatically. He spends 2 days checking off every server that's been built automatically. So we had to think about, okay, from your operating model perspective, what do you not need to do anymore? And think about speeding up that IT value chain. Are there things that we can optimize on the way? And get some skills and experience to help you build and run that transformative state. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.